What would it be like to be trapped, held against one's will and forced into service, hard labor, or even prostitution? No one to turn to, nowhere to turn.
Even as we speak, there are over 20 million people suffering that very fate. And yes, some of this happens right here in Jamaica. Modern-day slavery, hidden in plain sight, our topic on today's edition of CS311.
Crime Stop Jamaica 311, in association with TVJ, Musson Foundation, National Bakery, King Alarm, and Grace Kennedy, present CS311 with Deirdre Dixon and Leroy Hall.
Human trafficking, the buying and selling of people, is a practice that is almost unbelievable to imagine in today's world. But the fact that annually it earns $150 billion worldwide for the people who control it means it can't be a total secret.
Like many crimes, someone sees and somebody knows. So, how and why does a person fall victim to this illegal kind of domination? We hear more from the JCF Trafficking in Persons Unit.
Human trafficking can best be described as the global trade, sale, movement, and exploitation of humans by humans. There is a legal definition which requires some legal elements, that is the activity in which a person is recruited, moved, transported, or transferred, or harbored. There's the means, which creates a situation where a person is coerced, forced, abducted, and the third and final stage is the purpose. That's where the persons are exploited, that's where they are controlled, and that's where the trafficker abuse them in all forms. Human trafficking manifests itself in many different ways. Currently we have child trafficking. We have organ harvesting, for example, where persons' body parts are removed. In the case of sex trafficking, we know prostitution. Forced begging is another part or way in which human trafficking manifests itself. This is where a person, usually children, but adults too, are forced to go out and beg. So if a parent were to force a child to go out and beg, that's a criminal offense in Jamaica. It might not necessarily amount to human trafficking unless the indicators, as expressed earlier, where the activity, the purpose are involved. Human trafficking is a transnational organized criminal event, and as a consequence it involves mainly and oftentimes several different jurisdictions, several different countries. The US State Department publishes a global report every year. They have a 3-tier ranking system. It's actually 4. You have tier 1, and that means that you're in full compliance with the laws, you have shelter arrangements, and you're doing it extremely well. Within the tier 2 band, you have tier 2 upper. Tier 2 upper means you're doing extremely well, but still required to do some things more in order to achieve the tier 1 ranking. Within tier 2, you also have the tier 2 watch list. On the watch list is where countries are placed where it is deemed that their efforts are not as successful in trying to combat the global trade in human trafficking. And if you stay 2 years consecutive on the watch list, you're automatically sent on the tier 3. Now, tier 3 means that you are deemed as maybe a recalcitrant and you could be subject to severe sanctions. Currently, Jamaica is ranked on the tier 2 upper, and it's our aim to become tier 1. We have seen human traffickers manifesting in several organizations, several professions. We know that terror groups are involved in human trafficking. We know that persons from the religious sect are involved in human trafficking. There is no one way to look for a human trafficker. They could be anybody. As it relates to the typical profile of a victim, there's no such profile. However, vulnerability exists in all groups. Could be a child age 1 year. It could be a child under 18 just. It could be an adult who is required to participate in prostitution or forced labor. We encourage people to be smart about what they do. We ask people to firstly open your eyes. It cannot be true that you're living in a community and there are activities going on and you just walking past and not paying attention. So look. Secondly, once you're suspicious about a particular activity, choose the best avenue to report those situations that you would have observed. 1-888-PROTECT, that is specifically for child victims. We have Crime Stop. You could call us at the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Branch at 967-1389, 360-9716. Do not remain silent. Chances are the person requires your assistance. Be that one to assist them.
It's true that no news is often good news. And for some of us, that means taking cover in our own shell and remaining blind to the violence and injustice taking place around us.
But what about when the crime touches you and you become the victim? All too fast, the statistic becomes the personal reality, as it did in our next story, our featured crime.
Just beyond the quiet North St. Catherine village of Guanaba Vale, Sheldon James and two friends were driving to a party along the Story Hill Main Road in an area called Watermount.
As soon as I come up with this driver behind it. It's a man.
Sheldon Marlon James, otherwise called John or Gaza, had his life taken in a hail of bullets. He was pronounced dead at hospital. His friends were treated and sent home.
Are you one who sees but turns away? Who hears but won't speak up? Are you willing to let another crime go unpunished?
Well, can you ever adjust to the fact that your loved one isn't coming home? I mean, I can't. Waiting for him to come home, expecting him to walk through the door, or waiting for that phone call or that message, or to even come home to even give me a hug. You know, the person that has been there for all the years that, you know, I depend on, get advice from, or having the life partner that I've always had talking to every day, and then all of a sudden he's not there anymore, and life was beginning to be great, you know, and like we was going to start our family this year and things was moving in a positive way for both of us. Finding it hard now to like trust people, because you never know who to trust, because you don't know why they actually took his life. I have financial issues because we were dependent on each other. We had two sets of income. I've got no idea why they'd done this or who done this. My husband was a kind, gentle man. He was loved by so many. It's just why? Why him? Why take away a life like it was nothing? For what reason? All the memories that are there, and that's all I have is memories.
Telling what you know may be easier than you think. It just takes one anonymous call. Crime Stop Jamaica 311. No name needed, no identity wanted.
just the information to help crack another unsolved case. Crime fighting begins with us. Stay tuned. Back in a moment.
Human trafficking networks are so intricate that they cross borders and span countries. They may even intersect with your life in ways you never imagined. Listen to this.
Did You Know? Brought to you by Musson Foundation. The United Nations reports that 71% of human trafficking victims are women and girls, and 1/3 are children. But trafficking affects everyone. Several popular clothing brands have been linked to so-called sweat factories which operate worldwide, using forced or unpaid labor of both adults and children. Your favorite pair of designer jeans may have been sewn by a victim of human trafficking. Sectors most frequently linked to trafficking are agriculture, construction, garments and textiles, fishing, catering and restaurants, domestic work, entertainment, and the sex industry. Some victims are hidden behind locked doors in brothels and factories, but in other cases, victims are in plain view and interact with the community members without people being aware. Traffickers use violence, threats, deception, debt bondage, and other manipulative tactics to force people to engage in commercial sex or to provide labor against their will. There is a national task force against trafficking in persons. If you or anyone you know is being held against their will and is a victim of trafficking, please call 1-888-PROTECT. That's 1-888-776-8328 or 967-1389 or 922-3771.
With Jamaica's cases of human trafficking on the rise, the organization Woman Inc. has opened their shelter to accept those who have been lucky enough to find their way back to freedom. We spoke to them recently.
The typical profile of the female or male who's been trafficked, normally that they're poor, they're from a family who the financial situation is not as it ought to be. They are from inner cities, rural communities.
Sometimes they're lured just as a matter of looking for a job or thinking that they're going to get employment.
The trafficker will go out into the rural community and will tell this family that, okay, this family who has a young girl, nice, beautiful looking, and said, okay, we can get her a job into Kingston. And because the family needs the income, they would send that person.
Sometimes you may send the person off to the family just thinking that they can make a better way of life for them. And as a result, they enslave them. They keep them in the house, keep them locked up, and make them do all of the housework, all of the tasks that normally would be assigned to a helper, a gardener.
They're being asked now to do other extracurricular activities, which most times involve prostituting themselves. And oftentimes they promise them that they'd send them back to school. Until when they actually get into Kingston, that's when they realize that they're in deeper than they thought.
Women, particularly young women, are used for sexual exploitation as well as for labor. They believe, because sometimes the women themselves are the traffickers. So the woman who is listening to another woman will be easily lured and easily made to feel that she can trust this person. If you see a house that's normally not occupied, or the occupants are taken away by transportation, brought back by transportation, they're never out in the community, they're never seen on the road, there's no communication, they're really being more or less escorted. People, more frequent than not, will see the signs and alert the authorities. And again, because the police themselves now have become more and more trained to be aware, the police may in fact go and raid places. They may go and raid a particular house, a particular nightclub, communities where there's wholesale. They may have to go and board a ship, fishing boats, you name it. We've been very much involved with a lot of the training in helping the other agencies recognize, even by telephone, what information they get and how to think of it as either a potential trafficking case or a real, as we would call it, a real trafficking case already at work. The response to trafficking victims is actually a victim-centered operation.
So they're feeling that, okay, I'm guilty. I'm supposed to be earning to send this back to the family, but what they don't understand, they're not paid any money. And they realize that too late, That is when they are already caught and they are already at the home and they are already into the situation. Physical is that they get beaten when they try to leave. They are threatened when they try to leave. They might end up with scars, both emotional ones that you can see and what the men actually do to them when they are actually sexually exploited. The reintegration, as we spoke about, how did they go back to the community, into the community after knowing that this is what they would have experienced?
Many times they're ridiculed. They're still also at risk depending on where they were actually recruited from, because all too often the person is still a part of the community or either they have connections in the community. The whole idea though is being safe, and that is that they are not re-trafficked again, because all too often that too is a risk.
More in a moment after the break.
They say a scammer is born every day, but who says we have to fall for their tricks? Watch this scam.
Hello? Yes, is this New Beginnings Career Services?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I'm calling about the overseas jobs advertised on Facebook.
Oh, yes, yes. What's your age and your skills?
I am 19, sir, and I did a little bit of waitressing here and there.
Education?
No, sir, I don't have any subjects. I dropped out of school, but I'm a hard worker, you know, sir, and I am willing to learn.
True. You see, I believe that when you're young and willing, you have everything in your favor. Actually, you know, we might have some excellent opportunities in Florida for caregivers.
Seriously?
For the elderly, that is. Pays well though, 14 US an hour.
I think I could manage that. I took care of my grandmother for years before she passed away.
Family. You have any other family?
No, sir. Granny was my only family, and now that she's gone,
I see.
I really need the work, sir. Okay, where can I send an application? I don't see an address.
No. We run a completely virtual operation. You just need to send me one passport size photo and a full length one.
Picture? You don't want my resume or reference, sir?
We'll have plenty of time for that, man. But by the way, what about passport and your US visa?
I do have a visa, sir, and a passport.
Excellent. We can take care of the work permit. But you need to be able to travel in the next 2 weeks.
Just like that?
You can manage that?
No interview? I mean, can I get some more details?
What details do you need? As we go along, you will learn more about the process. For now, just WhatsApp me the pictures, all right? And the visa information. I will take care of the rest. As young and bright as you are, high-paying jobs don't just fall into your lap. And legitimate permits take time. Inexperienced people with limited education and few ties are prime targets for traffickers. Never share personal information too willingly without doing your own research, and always inform someone you know when traveling abroad. Don't be scammed.
Thursday, April 13, 2017. Freetown Road, Clarendon, in an area called Bucktown, near Rasta Corner. The Blake brothers were asleep in their room, unaware of what was about to happen. The three murderers escaped into the night, leaving 2 dead and yet another devastated Jamaican family in their wake. Ricardo Blake was only 16 years old, and his brother Richard Blake, 19. They leave behind their mother and 4 younger siblings whose lives have been changed forever by these brutal murders.
Life is very different now because they're not around anymore. Whenever I remember them, I feel so sad. Very sad. First one, he would go out and work. Whatever I work, he carry. He take some and give me. And I could take it and like buy food or anything for the rest of the kids. And I want the public to know that they are not gunmen. They are very innocent.
Please don't let this crime go unpunished.
Don't hide it, tell it. If you know anything that can lead to the arrest of those responsible for this crime, the number to call is 311.
Jamaica has been pinpointed as a source, transit and destination country for women and children trafficked for sexual exploitation and forced labor. Here are some of the things to look out for to protect yourself or those you know.
Safety tips brought to you by King Alarm.
We ought to be careful of the persons to whom we give our children. We also need to be careful as young women who we look to in terms of promising us jobs. First, we need to think, if he's promising me a job, why he has to take me away from my family? Why is it I have to go to another country? Why is it I have to go to, even if it's in Jamaica, another parish? And when you get there, why is it that I'm not free to contact my family? Why is it everything that I do, the trafficker will want to know?
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But why would someone in Grenada or Barbados need you to come and be a waitress for all of this big money, that is just not real? All the jobs that are promised to you, if they sound that good, ask somebody, check with somebody. Everybody needs to be aware and begin to speak up and report what they see, even if it's just suspicion. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them and stop them.
We can never be completely safe, but we are safest when we are alert. I hope you have been watching closely, and if you know anything that can help to solve the featured crime or to locate any of our missing or wanted persons, you know where to call.
Nothing is completely secret. Someone sees or someone knows. Maybe that someone is you. Don't hide it. Tell it. I'm Leroy Hall.
And I'm Deidre Dixon. Many thanks to our sponsors, Musson Foundation, National Bakery, King Alarm, and Grace Kennedy. Thanks for joining us on CS311. See you next time.